Good afternoon. I'm Specialist Clark, and I will be giving you an information brief today over building resilience in the squad. This is for Basic Leader Course 00521. The overall classification of this brief will be unclassified FOUO. The overall risk assessment for this activity. This is a low-risk activity given that we are in an indoor environment in a virtual classroom. However, at your home or facility, there may be slips, trips, and other types of obstacles in your way. Just be mindful of those as you move about. Also, just remember to drink water, stay hydrated. And in case of a fire, just remember to run in the opposite direction and rally at your nearest rally point and contact somebody like a cadre member or somebody in your chain of command to let them know that you are okay. Next, in the case of an active shooter, just remember the slogan, run, hide, and fight to the death. So, the key points that we're going to go over today are: what is resilience, common traits of a resilient team, the role of servant leadership, types of followership, social resilience, issues that can cause a team to be less resilient, and broadening assignments for leadership. First of all, what is resilience? So, the Army in FM 6-22 defines a resilient soldier as demonstrating the psychological and physical capacity to overcome failures, setbacks, and hardships. FM 6-22 also goes further to define the leader as leaders instill resilience and a winning spirit in subordinates through personal example and tough, realistic training. So for me, this is like the ability to bounce back, that adaptability, right? Like building that team camaraderie, being physically fit to be able to physically carry out the mission, and also having a effective, active leader, servant leader, that is willing to be empathetic and listen, and also have those active followers, which we'll go over in a little bit. So, common traits of resilient squads. First of all, this is the confidence and the abilities of the team members. So, if everybody knows what their roles are, I'm going to use Intel for an example since I'm in Intel. We have people that are good at making assessments. We have people that are really good at the buttonology and what we do. We have people that are really good at briefing, for instance. So we all have those roles assigned to us based on those strengths. And that, at the end of the day, builds that cohesion and that trust and that confidence. And this goes to the operating model also with the roles. Like, that's what a common operating model is. Everybody knows where they fit within the team and how they function, and are able to be independent within the team. Next, they have the ability to improvise also. So improvisation is the ability to think outside the box, use your critical thinking skills to come up with new solutions to complete a mission or a task. And then next, we have social resilience. So this, once again, goes down to camaraderie. All these things kind of combine with each other if you haven't noticed yet. But being socially resilient, everybody is able to share personal details with each other, talk about their experiences that they've had over the years. And like I said, builds camaraderie, and therefore this all leads to trust. When you have confidence in the abilities of your team members, and you know their roles, and everybody is able to improvise, utilize those critical thinking skills, and think outside the box in order to complete a mission or a task, you all trust each other. And this leads to a more cohesive unit that's able to adapt to almost anything that comes their way, which is the core of resiliency. So next, servant leadership. So servant leadership is defined as somebody that prioritizes serving their teammates, the people under them, the subordinates, as opposed to everybody above them. So this kind of fosters a sense of esprit de corps, which we'll go over a little bit later. And team leader must be empathetic. So in other words, have that understanding for what soldiers are going through, why they're doing what they're doing, anything that may be going on personally in their lives, or any difficulties they may have in accomplishing a task or the mission. Actively listen, not just listen to respond, but actually listen to what they're having to say, and utilizing your critical thinking skills to solve any problems or to come up with new ideas in order to complete a task or a mission. A good leader also will have to identify strengths and weaknesses in individuals and assign them roles in a team based on those strengths or weaknesses. So even if they're assigned a role on their strengths, you have to foster those strengths, of course, and then work on their weaknesses, so that way that you can eventually cross-train them and they're able to fill other roles and vacancies within the squad. So that way, in the case of a vacancy or a new person, somebody can fill that role and step up, and that makes the squad overall more adaptable. And lastly, an effective leader needs to mitigate conflicts and possess the ability to aid conflict resolution, right? So trying to prevent butting heads from butting heads even further and letting it go down the road to where it can actually lead to a fight or a distraction, because any type of distraction like that on a personal level within the team makes you less combat effective or less mission ready, and you won't be able to complete that task, and this is just setting your team up for failure. And you don't have that bounce back capability at that point. So next, there's different types of followers. We've been learning about the Kelly model of followership in basic leader course so far. And there's two types basically, right? Well, four types technically, but though there's active and passive followers. So we'll go over active followers first. First, there's two categories. There's effective followers. These are the independent, enthusiastic people, always have a positive attitude. They utilize their critical thinking skills a lot in order to add to the team, actively contribute. Like, they're not afraid to speak up to leadership to say, hey, Sergeant, hey, sir, I believe that this is a better way of doing this, and we might be able to complete the task or mission more efficiently if we do it this way, or maybe if we switch people up. They're not afraid to think outside the box and use those critical thinking skills, like I already said. And then there's the yes people. While they are good at their job, they just kind of question orders. They have loyalty to the team and the leadership, and don't really use any critical thinking skills to ask why they're doing something. They just kind of do it. And it's the role of the leader to kind of engage those people's critical thinking skills at the end of the day. Next, you have passive followers. So these types of people can be kind of drains on your squad, and it is the leader's responsibility to be empathetic, understand why they're acting the way that they are, and really bring them up to be that effective follower that everybody should strive to be in a group. So first you have the alienated followers. These people feel like their voice doesn't matter, feel like they're ostracized from the group. While they are capable of using critical thinking skills and can act independently, they usually negatively question leadership about why they're doing what they're doing. And their helpful ideas usually aren't voiced to leadership because they feel like it's not going to matter, like their voice won't be heard. And then next, there's sheep. We're all familiar with these people. Like, they require a lot of supervision to do everything, and you have to basically prod them. You know, they need a lot of external motivation to get going and actually complete a task. And once again, like, these two types of people are going to be very difficult for a leader to deal with as far as trying to make them more effective followers. But at the end of the day, I believe it is possible if you use that approach of being empathetic and actively listening. Next, there's social resilience. We kind of went over this already. But in a nutshell, it's the ability to sustain positive relationships. Soldiers need to be willing to share their common experiences and details about themselves, right? Like, that's what humans do. We form friendships, we bond with each other, we start telling intimate details, and that intimacy leads to the camaraderie, right? Which goes to the esprit de corps. And according to FM 6-22, it's the Army's winning spirit. It's a collective ethos of camaraderie, mutual trust, and cohesive teamwork. And honestly, I don't think you could state that too much better. Like I said earlier, it's people that are willing to share their experiences and details and know that they have that collective task to get through. And once you build that camaraderie and that esprit de corps, that team is going to function so much better, because this builds confidence, goes back to what I was talking about earlier. And they will accept their roles better, they'll work with leadership better, leadership will work with them better. Next, some issues affecting squad resilience, as I went over already before too. Vacancies in the squad. Vacancies happen for various reasons. Emergency leave, people just rotate out, there's nobody to replace them. In the case of a vacancy, if nobody is cross-trained to fill that role, or leadership can't identify anybody that could probably quickly step up and fill that role, then the squad is no longer combat effective. It's no longer effective or mission effective. It's going to fail at whatever task or mission that they're currently on. New people to the squad also. New people need to rapidly integrate into a squad. Once they get there, they have to go through all the different phases of group formation still on their own, essentially. So they have to go through the forming, the storming phase, where they kind of butt heads with certain different personalities, and this is where leadership steps in to kind of mitigate that. And also, leadership needs to identify strengths and weaknesses of new people to assign them a role. They won't have the same strengths and weaknesses of the people that they replace, most likely, but with cross-training, which is the next point, people can move those roles around. You can switch people around and make the group more combat effective. Next, we have the lack of cross-training. So the lack of cross-training, like I said, people can't move roles. They can't switch roles. Nobody's weaknesses or strengths were fostered in order to have that group resiliency, that bounce back. There's no adaptability in these groups if there's no cross-training. And next, there is failure to adapt to new technologies. This is the Army. At the end of the day, it's constantly evolving technologically. So in the intel world, we are actually faced with new technologies all the time. We've went through so many different systems, from like old bullfrogs to DSIGs to other systems like on JWICs and higher up even, that are constantly being rolled out just within the few years that I've even been in. And you have to be willing and able to want to learn those systems. And also new mission parameters, right? Eventually, whatever task or mission you and your squad are on is going to end. And you can't rely on precedents, and say like, well, in the past we did our mission or this task this way, because each mission has its own different set of parameters and each commander wants it done different. You can do the same mission twice under two different people and it'll be done two different ways at the end of the day. But that's why you need to have that resiliency and that adaptability at the end of the day, with everybody in the team through that active leadership and that active followership, active and effective followership. Next, a couple broadening assignments that I found in my research are the Squad Leader Development course. Focuses on developing squad leaders and goes back to putting that emphasis on empathy, trust, and having tough conversations. And also, I found the Master Resilience Training course. It's a 10-day course focusing on learning resilience competencies and skills. Very basic. So, in summary, we went over and defined resilience, at least Army's definition of it, the role of the servant leader, the types of followers and their roles, social resilience, issues affecting squad resilience, and broadening assignments. What are your questions? If there are no questions, that concludes my brief today. Please be safe on your way out.